maybe if I was a little calmer and I wasn't so reactive to, you know, things that I thought I met with rejection and I reacted towards it. People's reactions were met by me and interpreted as rejection, and I reacted to that rejection. I would probably tell that younger version of me to just chill the fuck out.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris. Joe Pacheco joining me on the line. What's going on, Joe?
Enjoying the crazy heat wave we have here early September in Montreal. You? How's it going?
Feeling good, man. Listen, I feel like we should try to cherish this heat wave before we're in this minus 30 over here in Canada. That's the one consistent thing we have across most of the country. But we're wishing all of our viewers a good transition into the fall season. Hopefully you guys can work on a lot more music being locked up inside with that weather. And speaking of new music, we are joined today by the one and only Danko Jones, of course, promoting his brand new record, Electric Sounds, which is going to drop on September 15th. Danko, of course, one of the top artists out of Canada, and a guy, Joe, who's been on the scene for so long. I think it's always awesome, at least for me, to get a check-in with Danko to see what he's been up to.
Yeah, like I found a quick takeaway from this interview was he's very calmed and centered, whereas the music is very punkish rock, but like he seems to be himself more and more calm and centered.
100%. We talk about that. We spoke about his ability to turn on his sort of frontman mode and really go into lead singer mode, as they often say. And of course, what fans can expect from the brand new record. All of that coming up in the guest portion of today's show. Hopping over to some sad news in the world of music. Jimmy Buffett, of course, the legendary voice behind Margaritaville, passed away at the age of 76. 76, Joe, a pretty good run, I got to say, but definitely, of course, still surprising for people to hear.
Yeah, like it's young, and what we're hearing is a lot of 90s and a lot of 80s and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I've heard Jimmy Buffett forever, the name, the song as well. And when I think of Jimmy Buffett, I just think of a timeless, like a stamp in time of like how the sound and the production quality and the songs of that era, One thing that really surprised me, and I'm like really happy for this guy. This is a musician who not only did it in terms of writing songs and stuff, but also like when he passed, I think he was worth over $1 billion in terms of the margarita and all the branding and stuff that they had for location kind of stuff, right? Like I think it's hotels and stuff, not hotels, but
I think bars, right? And little restaurants. Yeah. I know they're in Vegas.
Look, it shows that I don't travel at all because I've never been or seen this. But yeah, no, it's great. See, there you go. His net worth is north of $1 billion here. So
wow, kudos
to Jimmy, man. Like he did it right.
No doubt. It's definitely cool when you see someone who, not everybody might know, the name per se, but I mean, everybody probably knows one of the ideas that Jimmy Buffett was involved in, which is just sort of a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit of a guy like this. When your ideas become bigger than just you and just your name, and they become sort of a staple in different cities across the world. Again, I think it's a testament to just how resourceful and how cunning this guy was. So definitely really cool. Rest in peace to Jimmy Buffett, and definitely a guy who will be remembered and missed for years to come. Some more sad news in the world of music. We have also lost the lead singer of Smash Mouth, Steve Harwell, at the age of 56. Now, this was sort of a really tough back-to-back hit, Joe, I think, for music fans and rock fans this past week. And again, I think it's just, we're seeing these guys getting younger and younger.
Yeah, totally. And like, I haven't followed Smash Mouth or didn't know that he was already dealing with issues. And I think he died of liver failure, I believe. And stuff, but like, I mean, you can't be around today and not know those iconic songs, right, from Smash Mouth, especially with TikTok and like having a resurgence and people using them for memes. I mean, this guy's gonna be around. I think it's like one of those timeless. It's gonna be timeless classics where those songs are always just gonna be amazing.
Do you think there's anybody in sort of my age range, Joe, who doesn't know these guys from like their movie placements and stuff like that? Or do you feel like, it's mostly because of that resurgence? And like you said, TikTok as well.
Yeah, like I'm like my kids, 10 years old, they know somebody, all those
Yeah.
like those lines, like rock star. Have you ever got to see these guys live?
I never have. No, actually. But
No, me
have you?
too. No, no, unfortunately not, and I'm sure it would have been a good show.
Yeah, definitely. Crowd pleasers is what it seems to be for these guys. And again, no, we don't really think about how long it might have taken them to land these hits before, they were household songs. So definitely, again, a testament to how hard you can work as a band to really try to climb up the ladder. So rest in peace to Steve Harwell. Of course, we never want to see anybody going through these circumstances. And definitely sending love to the family in this challenging time. Hopping over to the Montreal side of SoundMojo, we just had another awesome weekend full of event coverage, and Joe is here to tell you all about it. So, Joe, what went down this past weekend in Montreal?
Yeah, the Arctic Monkeys were in town at the Bell Center, which is our big main venue for these shows. And I was already going. I had already had tickets. My daughter, who's a fan, and we'll get into like why she's a fan. And so I figured, while I'm there, let me try to get some shots, right? So I got accepted, and we got these shots, as you'll see as we're doing the review. Obviously, you're familiar. You're familiar with the Arctic Monkeys, right? Have you ever listened to an album? Like completely?
I have. I think more so that the latest music they've put out in the last decade is the stuff that I know. The bigger hits, Do I Want to Know, songs like that.
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely I've checked out some of their old stuff as well.
Yeah, that's the stuff I'm familiar with, stuff on the radio, those iconic kind of riffs and stuff. But man, was I blown away with the audience reception. Like it was full. I don't know if it was sold out, but it was full everywhere. And the biggest thing that freaked me out was it's all youngish girls, like 14, 15s. My daughter herself is 16, so and they sang every single word, standing up the whole time. And I had a girl singing next to me the whole time, off key, but she knew every word.
She was the concert that night.
Yeah. No, it was fascinating to see, because I kept questioning myself, like, why this band?
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the day, it's why any band, why any artist, anybody's interested. But like, I don't know, the music seems more mature to me, and like they're older gentlemen at this point, So
yeah,
it's interesting to see that all these young girls and guys as well, like really got into them. It seems like a high school thing, right? Like when a few friends get into it, and then it just starts to spread. I don't know. It just
blows up. Did it kind of seem to you that it would be an audience like a Blink-182 type of thing? Because when I went to that show, it was all people, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds who were sort of in that nostalgia from that time.
Well, I don't really, I never think what's the audience going to be like as I get there, because it's pretty much the same, from show to show. You'll have some young kids, some older. But this it just took me by surprise. I was like, wow, man, like all these young kids into this band, which is makes me happy, because rock is still, doing well, So yeah, the opener I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Fontaines DC. Here in French, we say Fontaine, which
Fontaine, yes. Prettier.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. Like interesting, it sounded like a bit of that British indie kind of rock, punkish vibes. Mm-hmm. They put on a really good performance. The lighting was so for them, as usually a lot of openers, it's like pretty dark. But when Arctic Monkeys came out, as you can see on the pictures and stuff, the video, like the setup was really nice. And like the impression I got was very clean and professional, very clean, polished look. They came out, they just killed it, like a great performance. And like I was just like, man, this is like interesting, I should be into this band a bit more.
That's really cool. I mean, so when they came out, I would imagine it was a fairly basic sort of UK style setup. Like they had the amps, they had them, but it wasn't like pyro or anything like that.
Exactly. Thanks for mentioning that. I almost forgot, because there was no pyro. It was, that's why I said, like very classy kind of Pink Floydish, because they had the big circle in the back with some clean background. And there, it would be the video in the middle of the circle with them. Speaking of amps and stuff, today we're so used to like a very clean back line. Even when I saw Dream Sonics or Dream Theater with Devin Townsend, like a lot of people are using amp modelers. So it's all tucked away in the back. There's no more cabs on stage, which makes for a better overall sound, because you don't have the mics having to fight with the volume on stage to project out.
That makes sense.
Everything is nice and clean. Fast forward to these guys. I'm looking at the stage because I'm right in front. I'm like, wow, they brought up some cool vintage amps I'd never heard of, with nice big fat mics in front of them. I'm like, okay, they went old school, normal for a setup, no modelers, no nothing. And dude, it sounded killer. It sounded amazing because, and I was pretty far when I went back to my seat. I was at the corner at the back of the hall, but because it's not very active, like in the like metal or rock, the sound doesn't get lost, so it travels well.
Right.
You know? So even with, so all I had to do is just I put my earbuds, and it eliminates the majority of the room, and I was able to hear everything pretty clear. And
Man,
I mean, all the sound tones were great, warm, vintagey, you know, kind of tones, all those buzzwords as we like to use. But yeah, no, overall, man, I would say like I would give this, you know, not knowing their catalog that well, I would give this a good 9 on 10 in terms of a good traditional show, no flair, no fluff. And one thing I noticed, and I kept asking my daughter at the time, like it doesn't, and even one of my nieces went and she said, yeah, it was a bit weird because there's zero to like nothing to almost nothing of interaction with the audience. Like a couple
they don't
times,
say, "Hey, Montreal, how you guys doing?" or anything. Okay.
Yeah, a couple times, hello, Montreal, or I don't know what, but nothing in between the songs. They just went song after song after song after song.
Real classic approach. Yeah, that's kind of cool, though. I know what you mean. It takes you back to a different era that maybe, you know, we don't really see that as much anymore.
No, blah, 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 you know, nothing, no like sob stories or anything, whatever, you know, like it was just music. Let's go, you know, and the fans really appreciate it. Trust me, like I haven't been to a concert, not the music that loud, the audience that loud.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It almost felt like
reminiscent to you know, bands of the past, right?
I was gonna say like the music has a vintagey Pink Floyd-ish kind of almost sometimes 50s vibe. And it's like I felt like, wow, this is must have been like maybe, I don't know, 20% of what it was to see the Beatles, you know, to
exactly. Yeah, I like the way you put that 20% because you never want to compare. But see, a real music aficionado right there. He knows how to put it. I love that.
It's a different place and time, right? That was 50 years ago. I don't know, you know, I wasn't there, so what could I say? But I'm just imagining, like, I was like, wow, even if the band wasn't loud, I would have had my earplugs on because of everybody screaming.
Because of the people, yeah. So would you recommend this concert, Joe, for a fan of the Arctic Monkeys or maybe someone who's looking to become a fan?
Yeah, 100%. I would recommend it if you want to just see some good music, good performances, no fluff. It's definitely worth it.
Have you got the chance to see the Arctic Monkeys live in concert? Would you like to go see them? Let us know down below in the comments or on the SoundMojo community tab where we posted the photos from the event. Hopping over to our guest portion of today's show. As mentioned off the top, we're joined today by the man himself, Danko Jones, speaking on his brand new record, Electric Sounds, dropping on September 15th. Definitely make sure to go and buy and stream this record. Support great Canadian music. We spoke with Danko about many different topics, including touring across the world at different festivals, putting this album together with Eric Ratz, of course, their long-term producer, and of course, the legendary Danko Jones Persona.
I came here to fuck shit up and have a good time. I came here to fuck shit up and have a good time.
It's a good way to, like, this is the last interview. It's been a crazy day. Good way to end with Cassius here.
Awesome.
My man. Well, it's great to see you, dude. Well, listen, obviously we're here to talk about Electric Sounds, which is going to be coming out on the 15th of September. Obviously, you know, this is a big record, Danko, I think, for you and the group for a variety of reasons. I mean, it's the 10th record. 11th record.
Yeah,
My apologies on that. So this is
so
obviously
not so
a big
big.
one.
Not so
Well, yeah. 10 was a bit bigger. You know, we'll give you this
10
one,
was
I
a
guess.
milestone.
For 11, I mean, I understand you guys are sticking very much to the sound that you guys have been cultivating up until this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's not broke. Don't fix it. We take a page out of, you know, the Motorhead, Slayer, Ramones, AC/DC. They stuck to the script. It worked for them. But more importantly, I think the hardest thing for a band to do, considering how many bands have been before us and how many bands are around us, to carve out a signature sound is really, really hard these days. Like, and that's, you know, when someone says, hey, you know, I heard a band, they sounded like you, or I heard this song and I thought it was you. That's the highest compliment, because that means that there is some sort of signature sound that we're bringing to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, how many years, Danko, into your music career with the group would you say that you really feel like you honed in on that sound? Was it something that was sort of always there? I mean, there had to be a spark from the beginning, but how long did it take to really harness?
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about us is we didn't put out our first studio album until we were 5 years into the band. So
Yeah.
by the time we put out the album Born a Lion in 2002, we already knew who we were. We already knew what worked, what didn't work. We already kind of flushed all that out, playing shows and writing songs and then deleting songs. And that's why we have so many songs that nobody's ever heard, because we've got all these demos that we recorded in our rehearsal space. And that was really just time. We didn't know it at the time, but that was just time spent finding our sound.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's something that's bypassed nowadays? Because, we'll have people who've never done a concert and they're TikTok stars and then they get put up on a big stage. I mean, do you think that there's a lot of difference in those two factors?
Yeah. Sometimes it happens, where someone isn't, schooled enough and they need that experience. I mean, I certainly did. In the early days, things I did that I thought was like, wow, this is no one's ever done this before. Well, no one's ever done it before because it's stupid.
Maybe there's a reason.
Yeah. And luckily there was no smartphones back then. Yeah. And now after all these years, I go on stage. Usually, I can't say all the time, but usually I go on stage with a blank head. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what's going to happen. It's exciting, but also I'm very calm about it. And to get to that level of calmness, it takes a certain amount of years to get to that point where, if you were to go to year 1 or 2 or 3, maybe the first 5 or 6 years of our band, even more, I'd be excited and I would not be calm. I couldn't calm my nerves. I would just be excited, and it would sometimes work, but a lot of times wouldn't. But now I just walk on stage, kind of, there's nothing left to prove. Maybe that has something to do with it. Not that we've achieved anything, but it's like, man, I've been doing this for so long and we're still never gone gold. Fuck this.
But you guys have achieved tons though, man. I mean, that's not true,
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, glass is half empty all the time for me. That's my problem, I think, in my life that I have to fucking work on. So yeah, you're right. Thanks for pointing that out.
No, I wasn't going to let that one slide, man. But I hear what you're saying at the same time. Like an artist's biggest critic, and as cliche as it is, it's always themselves, right? And there's a reason it's cliche.
True enough. I think my lesson is to not be so hard on myself, but that's a lifetime spent learning that lesson,
What would you like, that typical cliche question of like, what would you tell a 15-year-old you or a 20-year-old you, today?
Yeah, I get asked that more and more these days. It makes me feel old. But I have an answer. I think I would tell that kid to, like, I don't actually, now that I think about it, I don't know what I would tell them, because like it worked, right? I'm here. Although maybe if I was a little calmer and I wasn't so reactive to, things that I thought I met with rejection and I reacted towards it. People's reactions were met by me and interpreted as rejection, and I reacted to that rejection. I would probably tell that younger version of me to just chill the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would have listened?
No, because I'm still trying to listen to that voice, still trying to learn that lesson. And I'm getting there, I'm getting there.
I know myself from experience as well. Like, I worry. And then you realize after the fact, like, I worried for nothing. But I find sometimes worrying is like preparation, in a sense of like just being ready for anything can happen, right?
Sure. Yeah. It's a form of protecting yourself, but I'm more addressing my reactive nature. Whenever I feel like whatever feels like rejection to me, I've always reacted to it, whether it's a negative comment or someone says something negative, or someone approaches me in a way that I view as negative, and it's not necessarily what they're doing. It's burned a lot of bridges in the past. So that's what I would probably say.
Speaking of the latest record, obviously I've been listening to it. One thing I noticed on here is the Danko, I call it the Danko persona, because like speaking to you, if somebody was to meet you, you're a nice man. You're a strikingly humble guy. But when you listen to a Danko album, you have that confidence, the machismo. It's like that, I'm the best, I'm number one. Talk to me about turning that on and off. Like, does that start when you enter the studio, when you walk on stage, or do you have to get yourself psyched up?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I'm pretty calm about it, so there's no psyching myself up.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what that was, because ever since day one of our band, people have said, "Hey, like you're like two different people," and I've always said, "No, it's the same person. It's me," and I've actually grappled with that myself, by myself, unbeknownst to anyone, and during the pandemic, when you had a lot of time to think, I realized that what that is and why I can turn it on and off so easily. And there is a marked difference where I can go from 0 to 100. It's trauma on display. And when I realized that during the pandemic, I was embarrassed. And luckily, there was no shows going on, so I didn't do anything about it. I just sat in my room, and I was just utterly embarrassed, and I didn't want to play.
You and the rest of us, we were all in our own crazy worlds, right? So
Crazy
it's like that's
worlds,
all we all did.
Yeah, so some of us, ordered takeout, and some of us did what I did and journeyed inside our heads, and so it was a brief time. It wasn't a long time, and brief enough where I didn't have to like email the guys and go, I don't want to do this anymore. So I just grappled with it. And, of course we have tours booked and everything. But now that I know what that is, I don't even know how to react to it. But, we're playing shows, and I have to find a place in my head where I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fans definitely embrace it and welcome it. We love the energy and the vibe that's up there.
Well, I like it too. Like I love the adrenaline hit,
Yeah.
And the ability to step outside myself. But I always thought it was just me. And then I realized it was like trauma on display.
Are you able to turn it on? Sorry, Joe, I don't mean to jump on your question. Are you able to turn it on like when you need to off stage? The confidence sort of lever?
Or does it work off stage? Yeah.
I don't really like to turn it on off stage, because it's not good. Like it works on like in a performance aspect where you're supposed to perform, but like in real life it can get unwieldy,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
screaming your head off. I mean, it's just not, you don't have any friends left.
No, that's the thing. I mean, and you see the people who are like that in real life, and it's not a performance. A guy like a Kanye West, for example, they burn a lot of bridges. They turn a lot of people away. And that's not, a lot of people may be a fan of that, but they wouldn't want to be around that guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that.
I'm always curious because, like, Rolling Stones, AC/DC, they've had these massive careers. And like myself, like just thinking, how would I keep it fresh to be interested always myself and not get bored, let's say, if that's, for lack of
from afar, it all just kind of sounds the same. But when you go closer and you hear the songs, there's different influences and different reference points for each song that keep us interested. So, so that's what keeps us interested. But, if you zoom out, it all sounds the same. It's just all rock,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that can apply to
closer.
anything.
It's different references, different influences.
For sure. It's like jazz, right? I mean, to the naked ear, it's all the same song. But to anybody who's actually taken the time and that care to go through it, it's very, a lot of intricacies there.
Oh, talk to a jazz head about jazz, and it's so interesting. And it opens you up to listening to it. That's how I've learned to appreciate jazz.
Yeah. Speaking of which, like, like what else are you into? I know, like, I can hear the pop, not the pop, sorry, the punk, the metal stuff, but like jazz. What else would you like? Would surprise
Well, I
us?
mean, jazz is definitely an influence on our album. I mean, we named two of our albums after jazz albums. Like,
Hmm.
Fire Music is actually an Archie Shepp album title,
Oh,
and we were in
wow.
the studio and we were trying to come up with an album title. And I said to JC, I'm like, I've always loved Fire Music by Archie Shepp as a title. Too bad. And then JC said, why don't we just take it? Like,
Right.
who's gonna sue us? Like, what does it matter? So we did that, and then we have two albums later. We have an album called A Rock Supreme, which is obviously an ode to Coltrane's Love Supreme.
That's
Wow.
cool.
So it
That's
finds its
incredible.
way in somehow.
So there's the little things that you personally enjoy, right?
Well, the funny thing is, when we did name our album Fire Music, I thought everybody was going to jump down our throats about, ripping off Archie Shepp. And so the
Mm.
first person I told was a friend of mine who owns a record store. And he goes, what's the name of the album? I go, Fire Music. He goes, what, after the Archie Shepp album? I'm like, oh, Jesus. This is the beginning. And then that was the only time no one ever brought up Shepp after that.
That was an aficionado right there. He knew.
Well, he owned a record store at
That's
the
the
time.
thing. He knew probably everything cover to cover. So
Yeah.
wouldn't
But
be
then, it's
surprised.
the first person you tell. He wasn't the 10th
Yeah.
person. If he was the 10th person, I would have gone, you got it. But the first person, oh, man.
Don't you let them get to you. You can't let them win.
Obviously with the new record, speaking of staying inspired and engaged with the music, we have an awesome amount of guest spots on the record. Of course, Tyler Stewart of Bare Naked Ladies, Damian Abraham of Fucked Up, and of course, Daniel Decay of Exciter. Talk to us about selecting this, man, because I'm sure, there's tons of bands that you want to collab with and vice versa. So how do you really narrow it down to who you're going to work with?
Yeah, well, we needed gang vocals. And so I called up
Mm.
Damien, who's one of my best friends, and he came down. And then Eric called Daniel, and me and Daniel are good friends. And we needed a voice for a song. And Tyler Stewart was really the only person who could do it, like on short notice. He's good at impressions. So he came down. We've known Tyler for like over 20 years. So it wasn't hard to get these guys. They're friends, and it just worked out that way.
Yeah. Are there any collabs that you want to happen, but like you guys haven't been able to put it together just due to logistics?
Yeah,
but both
I've
parties
always
are
wanted
down?
to collab with Beyonce and
Oh, there you go.
Taylor Swift.
They're trying to catch up to you to see if they can catch you. I understand.
Yeah, it's really hard to get a hold of their schedules.
Taylor's a little busy.
A little busy, and also, yeah, like Mick Jagger.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, are there? I mean, when it comes to collaborating, does it always work just if you're friends with the person? Like, let's say obviously when two musicians are hanging out, they're going to want to collab, but that doesn't mean it's always going to work.
Yeah, I mean, these were easy collabs because we needed gang vocals, and then since Damien was there, we just threw him in the vocal booth, played the song, and then he came up with, just sing the chorus with me or whatever, or answer my call in the chorus. So
Yeah.
So for example, he's featured on the song Get High.
Yeah.
At the end, where he answers my do you want to get high? And then all he says is, yes, I want to get high. I mean, anyone can come up with that. Not that, he didn't think about it, but
For
the way
sure.
he delivered it was only Damien could. So it wasn't something that we were like planning out from the,
Right.
the early stages, and we were working and working. We just kind of like threw it up against a wall and see if it stuck.
No, that completely makes sense. And I mean, it's cool to have those different elements and not have it just be like random session guys. I think that probably lends to some more authenticity in the music as well. Does it make a difference for you when recording it in that aspect, I wonder?
Well, I mean, we didn't set out to have guests on the album. It just, we got to the point where we're like, wow, there's a lot of songs that need gang vocals, and we didn't really realize. And there's just three of us here. Who can we call? And I, of course, I'm going to call Damien. And he said, yeah. And then it's so great that he ended up on a featured, more than gang vocals, featured on one of our songs. And we just actually shot the video for it 2 weeks ago in Vancouver. And it's hilarious because the song is called Get High. And we shot it on a pot farm. And so
That's cool.
That's all I need to tell you guys. And you put two and two together. It's
the elevator pitch is complete. It is.
Yeah.
I'm already in.
Just think
hilarious.
Cheech and Chong.
Exactly. Always. Speaking of course, Eric Ratz, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. Talk to me about sort of working with him in his production and what made him the right fit for this project.
Well, I mean, we've worked with Eric since 1999. He did our song Bounce, which is really the song that Canada knows us for. So he engineered, produced that. And then we didn't work with him till 2015's Fire Music. And we watched each other's careers, parallel. And he worked with Billy Talent and Cancer Bats, and we saw that. And we were like, wow, like Eric's kicking ass, And he was watching us. And then one night, JC, our bass player, he bumped into Eric. They had like a powwow, and the next time, it came around to making a record, we asked Eric, and we met for lunch, and then realized we all got along and we all liked each other. And so he's done 4 albums for us now. So it's been great. He's a great hang. I think the mark of a producer is a good, someone who can get along with a lot of different personalities. And in the music industry, there's a lot of special type of personalities. For us, we're pretty easygoing. Like all 3 of us are pretty easygoing. We get along with most people if you're not an asshole, so. And if you are, we kind of slowly tiptoe away.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, so it's easy to get along with Eric. And Eric, he's a rocker, man. I know who he is. I know the cloth that he's cut from. So it's easy to vibe with Eric.
It's easy to put it together, man. I love it. Obviously, to wrap up here, WatchMojo, of course, we're well known here for our top 10 lists. And this interview is going to be no exception. So we pulled up a list here, Danko, the top 10 best opening song lyrics. We're going to reveal what our top 3 were. But first, we just wanted to ask, do you have a song that either you wrote that is your favorite opening lyrics, or a song by somebody else that's your favorite?
Opening song. Well, we're opening with the opening song of our album. Guess Who's Back is the name of the song.
Yes.
And the first line goes, guess who's back? Me, motherfucker. So I guess that's a great line.
That's definitely a contender. Yeah. The great way to start the record.
Opening cut lines. I never really thought about it. Well, Black Flag's My War. It starts off, my war, you're one of them. You said that you're my friend, but you're one of them. That's up until recently, that was my fucking theme song.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Healthy. That is not healthy.
Yeah, wait. Now that I'm examining it further. There's something to be said for like the art of performance. And, when you approach the stage in the way that I did attack it like it was me against the world, because when you look at someone, sometimes it's an aggressive act. Just staring at someone can be an aggressive act. When you have 1,000 pairs of eyes staring at you, they don't necessarily mean to be aggressive, but the way your body and your body chemistry takes it in, it does become this kind of defensive act. And so it played into that whole way of thinking when I perform. And I think going back to something we were talking about earlier, how I can go from 0 to 100 is that I get that aggressive feeling that someone's attacking me when I get on stage. So I have to attack back, and I do it via the microphone and via volume of my voice. And, luckily it's in a forum that can be contained in a performance forum. Wow. And I'm able to get it out cathartically. And so when someone sees me after, I'm very calm, and, it's not as if it builds up if I don't get on stage. Right.
But it's a nice form of a workout, kind of.
You can channel something and sort of do it at that point. No, that makes
it's
sense.
Like doing 100 push-ups, like you can get it out of your system and it feels good.
Yeah, you're not going to be raging after you do the push-ups.
But if you don't do the push-ups and if you don't play the shows, it's not as if I'm raging because I
Right.
don't get my performance fix. You know, I don't. I think I've hopefully gotten past that. Where 27 years in, I have had more than my share of my performance fix. You know what I mean? Like when I was 16 and when I was 25, I was like, oh, I want to get on stage and I want to tour forever. And now that I'm not that age anymore, I'm a little older, I've gotten my fix. And
Right.
anything after that is, icing on the cake. That's how I see it.
No question. Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense why the Black Flag lyrics related to you then. The top 3 on our list, Joe, do you want to reveal what they were?
Oh, sure. The top 3 are number 1. Well, yeah, number 1 being Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, right? Like that opening line is classic. We all know it. We've heard it. Yesterday by the Beatles, number 2.
Of course.
I'm
One word, Yesterday. There we go.
Exactly. And Staying Alive. This is a good one. Staying Alive, number 3, like By the Way I Walk. What is it? By the Way I Walk, you can tell.
You can tell by the way I walk. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it's cool.
I love it.
Good choices.
Speaking of like a final question of like performance, and you got your fix of and your fill of performances, is there any particular like, because we always like to ask, like Cassius and I always go back and forth. We ask the audience, do you like a club concert? Do you like a arena concert? Or do you like a festival? Is there any particular preference you guys enjoy performing at?
Well, the club show is usually our headline show, so everyone's there to see us. And if it's a bigger show, like a stadium or maybe we're opening or a festival, field where we're only one of maybe 10 bands that people are seeing, they're not necessarily there to see us. But on the other hand, it's such a huge area of people. And then sometimes there's bands that are friends or you're a fan of, so you get to meet them that way. Just all depends.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely depends. Well, Danko, thank you so much for taking the time, man. And we're going to send everybody to go check out the brand new record dropping on September 15th, Electric Sounds. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
my man.
Cassius. Thanks, Joe, man. This is great. I'm finally on your show, man. It's been years.
I know, man. I'm really glad to have you on. It's talk about full circle. Like this is crazy. So thanks for everything
Full
you've
circle,
done, man.
for sure,
what I
man,
mean?
for sure.
Came here to fuck shit up and have a good time. I came here to fuck shit up and have a good time.
Huge shout out to Danko Jones for joining us on this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. Like I said, Joe, always great to catch up with Danko. And I really like the fact that he was so open and candid, especially about the sort of lead singer persona which we see him in. I like that we can speak openly about the fact that he's humble in conversation, but he has the bravado on stage. And I think it's awesome that, a guy is self-aware of that duality that he has.
I mean, like life is hard enough, right? So it's like if you can at least be aware of that, like you've probably eliminated yourself a lot of unnecessary
5%, yeah.
Yeah, but it's true. I 100% agree with you. Like the fact that he did some soul searching and like, not being reactive to situations, which is something that I've always tried to myself as well, because we react to things, but I'm trying to be more preemptive and prepare as much as you can, right? We can't really always prepare for everything. So, but yeah, even like I was saying at the beginning, like he's very like calm and like seems to be more centered and comfortable, where he is.
100%. And it was great to have him on episode number 130 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. And it was great to have you guys tuned in as well. Make sure to hit that like button down below if you're watching on YouTube. And also hit that subscribe button to stay caught up with SoundMojo. Make sure to hit the little notification bell next to it as well, so you can get alerts about all the videos we're putting up. Also check us out on the SoundMojo comms tab. Come let us know what you're watching, what you're listening to, and participate in some of our polls. We can't wait to interact with you guys on that platform. Also, make sure to come check in with SoundMojo on social media at SoundMojo. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Come drop us a line, and we'll definitely make sure to say hello back.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget, just to thank everybody for 35,000 subscribers. It happened maybe about a week and a half ago. So just want to say again, as always, thank you. We obviously pay attention to the numbers. They're a vanity metric, and they're sort of obviously important, but like we just love the interaction, the engagement, the comments. Like if you check out the verses we have going on right now, it's like Marty Friedman versus John Petrucci, and it's very interesting, the comments of people, like very mature, no one's bashing anybody. So we love the audience, you know, we always love your perspective and your inputs. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you guys for being here along this entire ride. It's been a great time. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast.